Ontology started in Stanford. Ontology is a branch of computer science. In the 1970s, when there was a lot of activity to try to create the first versions of artificial intelligence, which was called strong artificial intelligence because they used logic. And there were many attempts to build theories which would be able to be embodied in a robot and enable the robot to perform actions which would be equivalent to human actions. And because this was a new and attractive and exciting opportunity, many different theories were developed. And basically the domain was siloed into different subgroups. And the subgroups didn't talk to each other. And so the efforts did not cumulate. And Tom Gruber was one of the leading individuals who solved this problem. Tom Gruber is the author of the Siri ontology app, which is in your iPhone. Gruber invented with his colleagues something called the knowledge interchange format, which was designed to enable people to write theories for robotics and other applications which would be interoperable. And this formed the basis of something called the semantic web, which was introduced by Tim Berners-Lee, which would enable content to be hosted on the web in such a way that it would be interoperable, so that if I develop a theory about X and you develop a theory about X, then we can combine and compare our theories. We can also combine and compare our data. The whole thing matured in 2004 with the release of something called OWL, which is a common language for expressing content in such a way that it can be interoperable with other content. And as a result of OWL, there has been an explosion of many, many different ontologies in many, many different domains. The problem with that, of course, is that you repeat the original error. Lots of people build ontologies, but the ontologies become siloed and they cease to be interoperable because people don't work together. So this was the first real success story in ontology. The gene ontology was created as a means of linking the huge quantities of sequence data being created through the Human Genome Project and the many other omics projects of that period in such a way that all of those sequence data would be accessible to people who still spoke old-fashioned biology and medicine English. So the gene ontology is a controlled vocabulary for tagging gene sequence and other kinds of data. And it immediately became a huge success. It transformed the human genome data into a body of content that could be accessed by biologists, clinical scientists, and anybody working in the life sciences to address specific needs. For instance, researching specific kinds of cells or proteins or diseases or experiments, indeed. So new kinds of experiments evolved using the sequence data, using all of the new kinds of equipment for extracting sequence data. So there was a huge transformation of biology, both at the level of data, at the level of hypotheses, and at the level of experimentation, including new kinds of technology. So we have a situation very similar to what we're experiencing now in the quantum world. And what this led to in the biology case was something called GOA, the Go Annotation Database, which enables Go to be used as an access point to all the biological data and all the medical data which has been accumulating. So if you're interested in a specific kind of disease, in a specific kind of organism that has been registered using a specific kind of treatment, then you can find all the papers and all the data about that disease in that organism where that treatment has been used by using the Go Annotation Database. Now, the Go is one ontology, but we needed other ontologies, and I've listed them here. They started to be built in 2000. In 2005, and this was my principal contribution, I think, we created the Open Biomedical Ontologies Foundry. And this was a regimented way of building ontologies in such a way that they would be interoperable from the start, so that they would grow in a gigantic edifice of ontology content, which at the same time served as an entry point for access to the underlying data. Now, all of that was based upon something called basic formal ontology, which is a very small top-level framework to ensure interoperability of ontology. And this was accepted in 2020 as the basis for the DoD and IC Ontology Working Group Foundry, which is built on the same principles as the OBO Foundry in the biological case. And the Army then brought it about that this whole strategy was standardized in an ISO standard, ISO 21838. Now, since 2022, Jobst Landgräber and I have been working on building a physics ontology, in fact, a suite of ontologies, which will serve for the quantum domain in the same way as the ontologies in the OVO Foundry served in the life sciences domain, to transform what is a gigantic heap of independently created literature and patents and data repositories and so on and so forth into a coherent body comprising data, literature, patents, descriptions of particular organizations, of individuals, and of advances in different countries and so forth, in a way which will be accessible through the open door created by, in the specific case that we're dealing with today, the quantum physics ontology. And that's why we are here today, since Terry has put together an amazing group of people who is going to bring about the realization of this goal, to do for the quantum domain what we did for the biology